My name is Alain. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Alain Ghossein, and I am based in the UAE. I have a role within the Global Youth Coalition as an SDG 11 champion. I am very excited to present to you today a tool that we have been working on for months now that will help you understand better the connection between SDG 11 and road safety. Now, the agenda of our webinar today is, as you can see here, we are going to start with a nice icebreaker, get to know you, get to know where are you guys from, and then understand more about the sustainable cities and communities. Also, I will introduce you to the writing team that worked on this policy brief. And we also have amazing guest speakers that I will present, that will present to us case studies from Vision Zero Youth Council and one of the local actions projects winner. Prepare your questions for them in the chat, as we will have a live Q&A session with them in the end of the presentation. After that, we will wrap up with some closing remarks and take a group pictures. So please make sure to stay tuned until the end of the webinar. Great. Now, first of all, we're gonna discuss ourselves. So at the Global Youth Coalition, we have a structure of SDG champions that is in charge of shaping policy brief that is linked to road safety with the relevant sustainable development goals. I am happy to be part of the structure to work with Oliva and Stephen on writing this useful policy brief that discusses how youth can be involved in transforming cities to be more sustainable and why their voices need to impact how cities are designed. Introducing myself first, my name is Alain Ghossein. I'm a traffic and transportation engineer based in Dubai, and I am one of the SDG champions that contributed in the writing of the SDG 11 policy brief. Introducing Oliva. Oliva is the founder of Uzima Ari Uganda, and she is a researcher and a policy advocate. She serves as an SDG 11 champion and youth leadership board member at the coalition as well. She is not here with us today due to some study commitments. And giving the floor to Stephen so he can introduce himself as well.
Thank you very much, Alain. Hi, everyone. I am Stephen Kome. I'm a Cameroonian by nationality. I'm one of the writers of this brief. About me, I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Rome in Italy, and I'm following my research on road safety, especially on the speed management for low and middle income countries. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Stephen, for this lovely introduction. Moving on, we will now like to pass the microphone to Stephen as well to moderate the Menti quiz that we have prepared for you guys.
Thank you, Alain. Hi, all. Thank you very much for joining and for expressing your interest in learning about road safety and the Sustainable Development Goals. As my colleague have said, we have prepared some questions for you. We want to learn more about you. So please, can you go to menti.com? You can go to menti.com. You can check the chat site. You copy menti.com and paste on your browser. And from there, you can add this code that you can see on the screen, and you answer the first question. Please go to your browser, you go to menti.com, and use the code 88922154, and you'll be able to see the quiz. So the first question, we want to learn from you. Where are you joining us from? Can you go to the code? Can you answer? Can you pin the country where you're joining us from? We know that the Global Youth Coalition and many people is very diverse, and we have many members from different countries of the world, and we are very happy to see you. You can see various countries, see Africa, Europe, Asia, North America, South America. It's very exciting. Good. Wow, we are very happy to have everybody joining from the world. This means that our policy brief will be disseminated everywhere in the world. We have Egypt. Great. Good. So we want to find out what is your typical mode of transport to get around your city? We want to find out Which mode of transport do you mostly use in your city to commute to your activities, to go to schools, to go to the university, to go to work? Do you mostly use cars, walking, cycling, or public transport? Well, we see many people cars, the numbers increasing also for walking. Great. As expected, we have a very high diversity of the mode of transport, and the majority of the people, as you can see, they use cars. Of course, this depends on the type of the city. So let us move to the next question. As you can see, what is your most preferred mode of travel? When you travel, which mode of travel do you prefer most? Do you prefer driving? Do you prefer active travel? Wow, active travel maybe could be cycling, could be walking. It is very interesting to see a very high percentage for active travel, 80%, 82%. I think this is really very interesting to have many people, youth preferring active travel, which is very important in, first of all, for our health, very important in terms of road safety, in terms of air pollution. This is actually very interesting to know. Knowing this, I think let us move to the next question. What, according to you, what do you think is the most effective way of promoting road safety? What is more effective in promoting road safety? Do you think it's education and raising awareness, or do you think it's policy change? According to you, what is most effective in promoting road safety? We have policy change 73% going up. Education is also rising as well. Great. Personally, I think both the policy change and education and awareness raising are important. First of all, because if we do the policy change, maybe stop drinking while driving, or maybe speed reduction. If there's a policy change without actually raising awareness and education, it becomes problematic. So personally, we think that both are very important. Once we set the policy, we need to raise awareness and we need to educate people about the policy change. I think both can actually go hand in glove. And thank you very much for your views. As a majority have answered, we can move to the next question. According to you, who has a significant role to play in promoting road safety and the sustainable development goals? Do you think youth has the most significant role to play? Or do you think decision makers have the most significant role to play? Great. Almost equal. As expected, the percentages are almost equal. I think everyone is right. We have decision makers have a role to play. Youth have a role to play. Both youth and decision makers have a role to play when promoting the road safety and the sustainable development goals. If you want to know how, you will have to read our policy brief at the end of this webinar. Because in our policy brief, we show you how youth and road safety, and youth and decision makers can make changes in terms of road safety. And this is very important for us to know. So to have an answer to this question, remember to download and read our policy brief. Now let us move to the last question. This is an open question. According to you, in what ways can youth be involved in transforming their cities to be safer? What do you think the ways in which youth could be involved in transforming their cities to make their cities safer? What can we do? From where you are joining from, when you look at your city, what do you think you can do to improve on safety? Yeah, we see pushing government, advocacy, good. Lobby those in power, good. Being involved in the planning and design of their cities, excellent. Meaningful advocacy, raising awareness. Advocacy is coming up many times. Awareness raising, drive responsibly, follow the rules, excellent. getting involved, education, great. Make fruitful connections with all involved stakeholders. We can support and suggest road safety measures needed in village or level cities. This is very excellent. We have very excellent ideas from everyone. I think if we compile all of these ideas and put into a document, we can able to spread this document all around the world, and many youths can be engaged. So from this, you really see that youth actually have a place to give their voices in the cities, how they have a place to make change. This is very excellent coming from all of us. And I think since we have already many responses, I would love to thank you very much for joining us into these Menti questions and for letting us know about yourself. I will hand the floor to Alan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen, for this lovely Menti presentation. Allow me to share my screen again. Okay. Okay. Great. So we're going to move on now. I would like to play a short video that was pre-recorded from our colleague Oliva on her thoughts about the policy brief.
Hi, I'm Oliva Nalwadda, one of the authors of the SDG 11 Policy Brief. Our policy brief scheduled a section between road safety, youth, and sustainable cities and communities. To all the youth across the world, please access this policy brief to not only familiarize yourself with the concept of sustainable cities and communities, but also use it to strategically position yourself to be meaningfully engaged at different tables where decisions on creating and promoting sustainable cities and communities are made. For our stakeholders out there, please use this policy brief to harness on the full potential of youth in now creating cities for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliva, for this lovely speech. Now, the writing of this policy brief, it took almost about 1 year to finish, then having it proved to finally be able to publish the policy brief paper. So in this policy brief, we stressed on the fact that development of cities and human settlements are not possible without dedicated efforts towards sustainable transport systems, and that the way to a sustainable city begins through road safety itself. And youth can play an important role in this transformation as well, at so many levels. So of course, along the process, we met on a monthly basis with the coalition to get the necessary guidance. It is very important to link the SDG 11 with road safety. There is a strong linkage between road safety, sustainable cities and communities, and the key role that young people play in contributing to a sustainable future. Road safety is key to achieving this goal, as safer streets make cities more livable and contribute to overall sustainability. Young people are particularly important in this context, as they are both the most vulnerable road users and the future of urban communities. It is very important to start taking sustainable cities seriously. Cities are responsible for a large proportion of green gas emissions, and this leads to a high number of premature deaths, particularly among young people. Young people's voices are critical in making the public transport, cities, and public places sustainable. In addition, those young people can be powerful advocates for designing the safe and sustainable transport systems, and they can also act as agents of change in shifting the attitudes towards sustainable mobility by prioritizing walking and cycling. So being one of the pillars that has become a crucial factor actually for the sustainability, road safety keeps on being looked upon when it comes to achieving what we call a sustainable city. It is remarkable that everyone can contribute towards attaining this goal, especially today's youth, as the repercussions of road safety will directly impact their future. I believe that writing about this topic will one day influence the decision makers and reach its target towards achieving the sustainability of every city. It is, in the end, road safety is everyone's responsibility. So you can see a lot of numbers in our policy brief, if you go look at it, about how many deaths we have that are caused by pollution, that are caused by, and also you can see road safety crashes and poor infrastructure. So this policy brief must be a wake-up call for the decision makers and youth to start recovering on the right path. Now, road safety fuels the sustainability performance of the cities. Sustainable cities of the world are among those with significant improvements in road safety. So we cannot call a city to be sustainable if it shows no improvement whatsoever in its road safety KPIs. Also, engaging in youth awareness campaigns, using public transport, also reducing the pollution, and many more, all of that would be a nice contribution towards reaching a sustainable city. Now, I have with me here two amazing guest speakers today to share two case studies on sustainable cities and road safety from Tajikistan and Mexico. I would like to welcome the first speaker, Ana Villarreal from Mexico. Hi, Ana.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Very
Okay.
nice to be here.
Thank you, Ana. So Ana is Ana Villarreal Anzaldo. She is a public policy director of the Institute of Transportation and Development Policy in Mexico. Ana is a consultant on sustainability, road safety, and regional development. Her areas of interest include the promotion of sustainable urban development, gender mainstream, in mobility policies, of course, and metropolitan governments. Ana, we have around 15 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I have a presentation, so let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Or maybe, yes, there we go. There, can you see it correctly?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. Let me know, because sometimes Zoom acts a bit weird and there's like little boxes that come out. I think that's just Zoom. Okay.
Can you please zoom out a little bit, Anna, please, before you start?
Zoom out?
Yes, because we can see like half of the slide.
Oh, that's weird. Wait, let me, how do I get out? Give me a second. It's still a bit early in the morning in Mexico, so I'm sorry if I'm still a bit slow.
No worries about that.
Wait. Strange. Is that better?
Yes. Thanks, Anna.
Great. No, thank you guys. So, well, thank you so much for the invitation. And I'm very excited to be here today, and especially to learn more about the policy brief that you're presenting. Really, it's so important. And I think those connections between the 2030 agenda and specifically SDG 11 and road safety, I think it's so important to make them more explicit, because oftentimes we don't make those connections as obvious as they should be, right? And the whole issue that the goal related to road safety is located in the SDG 3 that is, well, has to do with public health. Obviously, they're both related, but we need to make that intersectoriality and that connection more obvious. And I think that's so important. And well, today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about one of our projects, which is called Vision Zero for Youth, that we've been developing with aid of the FIA Foundation for a few years now, and it's been growing over time. And precisely what it wants to do is to promote changing in policy frameworks in local authorities in Mexico and now in Costa Rica to make sure that they adopt a safe systems approach to all the public policies that they develop related to road safety. And our port of departure always is youth. And how do we start developing public policies, always trying to protect our most vulnerable users and to keep them at the center of our policies and scale up advocacy from there. So to give you a little bit of context about why road safety is so important in Mexico and pretty much all around the world, but especially in the global south, I think we all have share the same core problems. And that is that road insecurity is a huge public health problem. Mexico is the 16th country in the world and the second in Latin America with the highest number of deaths due to traffic collisions. And what we found is that we don't have very good statistics. There seems to be an underreporting of, some studies say at least 18%, some say even more. So this number might be even higher. And at its core, it's an equity problem that impacts disproportionately our most vulnerable users. So that is especially children and young adults. Every year, around 15,800 people die in Mexico as a result of traffic collisions, and 100,000 more are injured. And it's among the 10 main causes of death in Mexico, and it's the second cause of death for children aged between 5 and 9 years old, and teenagers from 10 to 19 years old. And at its core, it's an urban problem, right? 70% of deaths occur in urban areas. And I think this is really going to the heart of the issue, because I work a lot in mobility and policies related to how do we make our transportation systems more sustainable. And one of the issues that I always have is that road safety is always discussed as if it was a separate thing, right? We focus on reducing emissions, on improving air pollution, on improving urban planning more generally, which is all very important. But road safety often gets relegated to a separate discussion, and we need to understand it as, on the contrary, as a cross-cutting principle that needs to guide our approach to any mobility system and urban development, right? It's right there in SDG 11. We want our communities to be inclusive, to be safe, to be resilient, and to be sustainable. That's one of our guiding principles, and it's to be considered in every single step of our policymaking. And I think this is the safe systems approach, Vision Zero, for example, is the key here, right? We know when it comes to road safety that there's no single solution to preventing a collision. Just there's no single cause, and for the same reason, there's no single solution. Education by itself is not going to save the problem. On the contrary, we need to have this systemic approach where we consider the relationship of different factors and different areas of policymaking, from infrastructure, how do we design it? Who are we giving priority on the road? Are we promoting motorized transport, high speeds, or are we creating safe infrastructure for active mobility, for example? For pedestrians, make sure that it's universally accessible, bike lanes, etc. We also need to consider how our regulations are designed, what they allow, if people are familiar with the regulations, and if there is good law enforcement. Because in Mexico, we have the issue, for example, that we have a lot of regulations, but they're not well enforced. And well, that doesn't really help us prevent risky behaviors. As you mentioned, we need to promote a mobility culture. Education is important, but not just to the end user, just all along the chain of everyone that's involved in policymaking. We need to make sure that the evidence we take is based on, that the decisions we take are based on evidence. And so the management itself of the system is important. How are our institutions designed? How do they relate to one another? Are they really generating the data that they need? And making sure that we're measuring whether or not what we're doing is having an impact. So that's what we're trying to do with Vision Zero. We take that vision of the systemic approach and we apply it at the most local level and focus it on our most vulnerable users. So that's children and their school communities. We work mostly with children from pre-K all the way to middle school before they go off to university. So it's a big range of ages. But the idea is that by working more closely with communities and with students and their caregivers and professors, we can start building support for comprehensive policy frameworks. And from there, we can start scaling up advocacy. So for example, it all starts with Walk and Roll to School Day. I'll talk a little bit more. My presentation is actually focused on this activity. It's a celebration that takes place all over the world, but we use it as an advocacy tool and to get youth more involved in road safety and how they can start changing their immediate environments to make them healthier and safer. From there, if we see a specific need in terms of infrastructure, we might carry out traffic conflict analysis, tactical urbanism to start modifying the space. And then by developing relationships with decision makers, we also support them in the development of road safety plans and strategies. And that can be from the municipal level to the metropolitan level, try to get, at least in Mexico, different municipalities to coordinate with one another, because oftentimes, even just those political boundaries, they are a huge barrier to making sure that action is taken and it can have an impact. And obviously, we also carry out public policy evaluations. Right now, we're focusing on speeding and the operation of speed cameras. But really, it all starts with Walk and Roll to School Day. And well, Walk and Roll to School Day is a yearly event that takes place in October. It is celebrated in more than 40 countries. And the goal is to make visible the need to have safe and healthy school environments for children. We started organizing this event in Mexico in 2018 with 5 schools in 3 boroughs of Mexico City. And from there, every year, it has been growing. So in 2019, we expanded to 5 cities in Mexico, that is San Pedro Garza Garcia, Hermosillo, Puebla, Mexico City, and Aguascalientes. In 2020, sadly, we couldn't have any activities due to COVID. But then in 2021, we carried out what I like to call the first tri-national celebration. So we were in coordination with the National Center for Safe Routes to School that organizes a lot of activities in the USA. We started working with Costa Rica. We were able to connect with the Ministry of Public Education and the Road Safety Council, and they managed to include Walk and Roll to School Day within the activities for their Safe Routes to School program, and that meant that they could make this national invitation for schools to participate, and they actually got 98 schools to participate. And well, this was still kind of during pandemic, so a lot of activities were hybrid or virtual, but it was a very big impact for the first year, I thought. And then in Mexico, ITDP, along with our allies, we've been working, as we've been expanding, we've been creating links with local organizations. For example, in Nuevo León, we work a lot with MOVAC and Pueblo Bicicletero, which are local NGOs that do a lot of advocacy for road safety and sustainable transportation. And we managed to work with 9 schools in different municipalities in Monterrey, San Nicolás de los Garza, and Cholula. Things in Mexico, since we have to work at the municipal level and directly with each school, it tends to be more artisanal. But we've been working and we've been expanding over the years. So for example, last year in Mexico, we got to organize 11 celebrations in different municipalities. You can see them on the map in Mexico. And as part of the work that we do, it's not just activity, right? On the day of the celebration, we either carry out walks or bike rides, but before that, there's a whole lot of activities that take place. So for example, we give a series of workshops on road safety and air quality. I'll talk a little bit more about those. And we engage not just children and teenagers, but also their caregivers and professors and the school community. So it's a whole community movement. Costa Rica joined us again with the activities last year, and they also sent the invitation to this time 124 schools in the Safe Routes to School program. And since things were back to in-person activities, the Ministry of Education also worked directly with 3 model schools. And they had a huge turnout as well, just from 3 model schools. We had more than 1,000 children participating, and well, the other schools that were organizing the events themselves, they carried out a wide range of activities that can be from conversations to painting murals and drawings and carrying out parades, walks, rides, those kind of activities. And to me, the workshops are very important because that's where we start. Obviously, we tailor the message and the complexity of the topics that we cover over time, depending on the level of education that the children and teenagers are in. But that's when we start talking about how do people move in cities and who has priority on the road. So that's when we start talking about the sustainable mobility pyramid, for example, or air pollution and the sources of it and how they can start identifying and how we might start intervening in the public space to make it safer and to make it healthier. And for example, on the right, you can see a little loteria. That's like a Mexican bingo, but that's for the younger children to start thinking about the different elements and the different things that they might see in the city and in their immediate school surroundings. And since it's been growing, we've been developing resources that pretty much any city that wants to organize their own celebration can take those resources and use them themselves. Right now, we're working on a guide, so with the federal government on how to organize this kind of events. And I hope it'll be published soon, maybe in a month or so. But yeah, the idea is that everyone can take the guide and start using it to organize and rally their community. And just to show you a few of the images of the celebrations from last year, this one is from Mazatlan. This one was organized by the Planning Institute, and they had a lot of different activities. They had a walk. They also had children draw their ideal streets and what they would like to see in them. And then at the end, the children can always present the changes that they would like. And this is a very important space because it's oftentimes you literally give the microphone to the youth and they can talk to their local authorities, to sometimes the mayors go to these events. And it really changes their minds when they get to hear directly from the children the problems that they see, what they like and they don't like on their walks to school, and the risks they face there. And oftentimes just walking with them around the schools and seeing broken sidewalks or a dangerous crossing can have a huge impact. So for example, this one was the celebration in Apodaca. This one we organized with Pueblo Bicicletero and the mobility department of Apodaca. They had a walk, the children got to protest and make demands of the government. And as a consequence, the municipality of Apodaca, they took a commitment to improve road safety. And for example, one of the first actions they took was to implement tactical urbanism on the dangerous crossing that was just outside the school. This one was a celebration that MOVAC had in the municipality of San Nicolas de los Garza. I really love this one because it was so engaging. They gave the children lab coats and they had them act as scientists, city scientists. So they had a series of tools. For example, you can see this girl, she was taking the speed of the different cars that were driving past the highway that was just outside their city. Some were measuring the width of the sidewalks to see if they complied with our national rules. And they were documenting everything they saw on this little booklet. And at the end, they could share their conclusions and make a proposal of, from all the problems and all the issues that they saw on their walk around their school, to come up with a proposal of how they would be able to, solve them or at least improve the situation. And then as a homework, I think they had to develop that proposal. And a couple of weeks later, they had the opportunity to present it to the mayor of the municipality.
We have around 2 minutes, if you can.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. Well, just a few more pictures. This one was in Mérida. The result in Mérida was also that the government intervened the crossings right around the school, and they also donated a few bikes to promote active mobility. And just, this is wrapping up, I promise, to show you the impact that this can have. This one was the first school that we worked with. This is the Escuela Secundaria Moisés Sáenz. This is what it looked in 2017 before we intervened. So you can see on the right, that is the school and that was its entrance, and it's located on a very high-speed highway with a very dangerous crossing. The year after the celebration, we carried out tactical urbanism. And well, you can see some bollards. At first, they were buckets, and the school community was so engaged, and from everyone, from the students, but also the principal and the professors, they would bring out the buckets every single day to make sure that people respected that expanded pedestrian space. And they kept advocating and asking the government to make it permanent, and it finally happened. So this is what it looks like today. So from that initial engagement of the community and giving them the tools to advocate for themselves, it is now a permanent intervention in the school, and that crossing is a lot safer. And you can just see so much life happening outside the school, just like after classes, all the students are always congregating there. On the other side, there's a park. So there was this whole so there was this whole enjoyment of the public space now. And well, that's how we start scaling up and how we start working with students, and why it's so important to get youth, and especially from the younger ages, involved and recognize them not just as vulnerable users, but also as agents of change, and give them the tools to be able to advocate for themselves. And I'll stop there.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Anna, for your presentation. It's always nice to see how Vision Zero for youth always keeps advocating and try to reduce as much as possible the deaths from the crashes and protecting the vulnerable road users, and especially that you guys are now infiltrated into the school program. So as they say, teach them young. So I believe you guys are doing like a quite nice job on this one.
Thank you.
Sure. So moving on, now we're gonna discuss with Disholt. Okay, Disholt is a local actions winner for 2022 and 2023 from Dushanbe, Tajikistan. He was a semi-professional road and mountain bike cyclist and has traveled to many places by bicycle. And he co-founded the Critical Mass Dushanbe that was established 7 years ago with 2 international colleagues. Critical Mass Dushanbe is an organization that encourages cyclists to reclaim roads while also protecting the environment and preventing climate change. So he currently works as a project manager in road safety and post-crash response. Disholt, we have around 10 minutes. Off you go. So I'm gonna share the screen from my end, and you just like tell me when you're done.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you for your invitation. So for the third year in a row, we work in terms of the promoting active travel and walking and cycling. And I will tell you a little bit where did we start from and where we are now and what our future plans. So a little bit background. One of my colleagues, his name is Haidar Show, 3 years ago participated in the second ministerial conference for road safety in Stockholm, and he won a small grant from the Global Youth Coalition, and he created the bicycle field for children where they can learn how to ride the bicycle from zero. So it's like a figure cycling, and in many countries you have a driving courses, and why not to create the cycling courses for the children. And with this little amount of money, we started our journey. And we did a lot of things. Sorry, our project calls HAIM, I'm moving on 2 wheels and reclaiming space for walking and cycling, funded by FA Foundation for Road Safety, Global Youth Coalition, and Eastern Alliance for Safe and Sustainable Transport, and Global Economic and Environment UNDP in Tajikistan. Please, next slide. So, Dushanbe is a capital of Tajikistan. It's a very small city, and where you can get from one end point of the city to another in about 40 minutes by bicycle, and most of the trips by car are less than 5 kilometers, and 40% of these trips are around the 1.5 kilometers by car. So we did a lot of job in the framework of the project, and in the framework of the cycling field, we trained in 6 months 200 children. So starting from zero, how to ride the bicycle and follow the traffic rules. And from 200 children, 75% are girls. And we also a little bit work on the cycling infrastructure. We created low-cost bicycle parkings inside of the malls, social cafes, and the first one we created in Tajik Technical University Faculty of Transport. So the students and teachers now have an opportunity to come by bicycle to there, after we conducted a few trainings and asked their opinions about what type of transport they would like to use to come to university. So most of them said by bicycle. And for the first time, we host a bike fest 2022 in the Park of the Victory with the participation of 100 people from 6 years old up to 70. It was a really interesting event, and we also please next slide. Yeah, this is the bicycle parkings, and next slide, please. Yeah, we conducted several trainings for road safety for cyclists, and at the same time, first aid training for cyclists, pedestrians, and drivers, because of everyone can get into a car crash. So unfortunately, no one is immune from this. And by support of the Aga Khan Foundation for Habitat, the experienced trainers hosted the first aid trainings for cyclists, pedestrians, and drivers. And next slide, please. Yeah, we donated. So again, a little bit background. We did a study on the state regulations of helmets tariff and other legislative issues. And the idea was to abolish custom duties for the cyclists. So I mean, in terms of the helmets. So during our investigations, we identified that most of the cyclists buy a bicycle from $40 up to $100. So the average salary in Tajikistan is about $130. So and usually they buy bikes from for $50, $60, $70. So if he buys a bike for $70, he will never buy the helmet, which ranged from $25 up to $60. He will never buy the helmet because it's really expensive. So the idea was to abolish custom duties for the helmets for cyclists, but unfortunately it didn't work for several reasons. So then we changed our idea and decided to donate more than 120 reflective vests, helmets, flashlights, and other reflective things for vulnerable cyclists. And we conducted at the end of the phase number 1, the policy dialogue with the stakeholders and decision makers, and we developed the policy report. It calls Lessons from Dushanbe on Key Barriers to Making Walking and Cycling an Everyday Means of Active Travel, phase 1. And many decision makers and stakeholders participated in the policy dialogue. And so the outcome of this policy dialogue is the petition letter, which we sent to the mayor's office, and based on the needs of cyclists and involving the cycling infrastructure on reconstructing the roads. So there are many buildings in Tajikistan in construction. So now where the youth and cyclists have own voice, and we would like to be join it in the implementation part and have this bicycle infrastructure here in Dushanbe. So, and next slide, please. Yeah. And about our future plans, we are going to host next month, for the first time again, the Active Travel Youth Summit. And we would like to invite, we already invited the youth, and the next day will be the mass ride during UN Road Safety Week. And this is all about the Active Travel Summit, and this is something new for the local community, and many people do not know what is it about, and also decision makers. So I think it will be really entertaining event. And another our plans is we're already conducting our research on bike sharing schemes. So with some support of the European Bank of Reconstruction, and we're going also host for the third time in row during the World Bicycle Day, 3rd of June, the bicycle competition in our cycling field between the children. And another event will be during the European Asian Mobility Week. We also would like to host the mass ride with our stakeholders from the critical mass group. So briefly, this is our project about, I can tell a lot, but unfortunately we do not have time for this. So thank you.
Okay.
For your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dishot, for this lovely presentation. So as we can see, there's a lot of reflection around how you are helping Tajikistan in particular in doing the cycling and promoting the cycling in Tajikistan, no matter how expensive it could be in helping those people. So thank you so much for this. Okay, it is also always nice to see like actions of empowering and young people in Dushanbe as well, through the awareness of the capacity building to ensure like the meaningful participation and support of the creation for the future advocates, because most of your projects also involve children. So you are, as I said to Anna, like teach them young. So we are going with this motto today, I believe. I believe now we are ready for the interactive Q&A session with our amazing guests. I would like to welcome again Anna and Dishold for their lovely presentation. So I have here with me presentations, okay? Sorry, I have here with me the questions about the presentations from the chat. I'm gonna start with the first question for Anna. Let me just, okay, here in the chat, I'm going through it. Okay, so Anna, what role do you see young people playing in promoting road safety and sustainable development at the local and global levels?
Ooh, I think we have a huge role to play, if I can be honest.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I think we need more engagement, and we need more spaces and more significant and effective spaces to make change. I think in Mexico, there is leadership from the youth, but oftentimes a lot of the decision making doesn't happen as much in open discussions. I think you need to very much be in connection with lawmakers, with legislators, and that takes a lot of time and a lot of issues. So having more participatory spaces in different virtual and present spaces where we can have those conversations, I think those are very useful. And oftentimes they need to be out on the street. We need to get lawmakers out and show them how the issues that we see out in the streets and how we inhabit the space, right? I think one of the main issues is that young people and children, for example, don't engage with public spaces in the same way that adults do. And oftentimes they don't see it until they walk the street with someone young or a child, and they can share those concerns directly. So I think having those participatory spaces are so important.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Anna. I have here a question for Dilshod. If you can tell us, please, more about your local actions project this year, and are you planning to engage with the government to contribute to a policy change? And what is the impact that you want to generate?
Thank you for the question. Yeah. So the local actions project 2023 it's ongoing project, so it continues the phase number 1. So now we're on the phase number 2, and we promote active travel and alternative modes of transport, and we're working on the engaging with decision makers more and more. So, and basically the project divided into 3 sections on awareness, advocacy, and capacity building. And there are several events and activities which I think will be really tangible for the local community, especially for vulnerable cyclists. And one of them is our petition, which we sent it to the mayor's office, and still looking forward for their reply. And so I'm looking for the chance to meet with the representative from the mayor's office, and there are a lot of ideas, and which we express it on our letter for cooperation with decision makers, what we can do in terms of the active mobility, and because there's a lot of initiatives and projects with the European Bank of Reconstruction and Asian Bank of Reconstruction, and they are reconstructing some parts of the city, and we already involved in some of the activities, and one of the news is the meetings with the European Bank of Reconstruction, that they insisted on installing for 2 kilometers of bicycle lane and a few bicycle parkings. So we're looking forward for the opportunity, and we hope that our experience and a lot of our investigations and study will be useful for them as well.
Awesome. Okay, please, can you tell us also more about the Active Travel Summit that you were talking about?
Yeah, the Active Travel Summit will be hosted for the first time in Dushanbe, and we invited the youth from 18 years up to 25 years, and already more than, I think, 30 people registered. And there are several sections divided. So we are going to talk about what we have done in the framework of our project and local actions. And there will be the sessions with the Global Youth Coalition, which will be expressed by art and icebreakers. And where the Global Youth Coalition will also present the policy report. And there will be one of our guests, one of my friends, Dr. Carl Smith. He is the landscape architecture from the University of Arkansas. And he will tell more about his method, about the urban planning, and what do they do in the Arkansas, and how the youth voices can be expressed by the drawings and used by the local authorities.
Okay, thank you so much, Ishol, for this answer. Stephen, there's a question for you. What inspired you to work on the road safety and sustainable development in your local community, especially that not to forget that you are a Locals Actions winner in 2023. So if you can also tell us more about this.
Thank you very much, Alain, for this question. I always have this question coming up. Personally, I think that the road safety is a very big problem, and it's a global challenge, especially for low and middle income countries that always suffer most of the consequences of road safety. And even from the statistics, we find out that road crashes contribute about 6.5% GDP of low and middle income countries. And this is actually a very big issue because it leads to poverty, people are suffering. And because of this, low and middle income countries, there's a kind of a wide gap between this part of the world and maybe developed countries. And also the problem of road safety is less achieved, there's less attention from decision makers. And because of this, I want to make change in my society, where road safety are actually weapons of mass destruction, especially for the most disadvantaged youths who die every day on the Cameroon roads and on the world roads. So with this, and with my personal opinion of believing that road safety is actually an engine to promoting sustainable cities and development and achieving the sustainable development goals, with all of this in mind, I think road safety is actually something that is very important that we have to start working on. And as such, I'm very, very much passionate to drive the change into road safety and to bring decision makers to make this change, as well as actively promote road safety in my society. Thank you very much for the question.
Okay, thank you, Stephen, for this lovely answer. Anna, we have a question for you here from also the chat. So what would you say has been the challenges and benefits of working with children as opposed to youth and young people? So how has the government been receptive to policy-making processes that include and involve the youth? And is there an existing structure of youth in leadership as they engage the government in policy and mitigations on road safety?
Well, yeah, right now we're so Mexico approved a general law on mobility and road safety last year, which was a game changer in terms of what we can do for mobility. So before, a lot of mobility regulations were established at the local level. So the municipalities had the attributions. That meant that the federal government didn't really have a way to influence policies. And what they did, it's been quite a process. And the Mexican approach was interesting, I think. So what we did was recognize, we had a constitutional reform, and we recognized mobility as a right? So it's now established in the Constitution, the right to mobility. And in different conditions, in conditions of safety, efficiency, sustainability, etc. But that gave new attributions to the national government to start legislating and basically set new standards for the criteria that we need to follow in terms of infrastructure, in terms of speed, and kind of making sure that everyone is on the same level. Because before that, municipalities can set, for example, any kind of speed limits that they wanted. So now it's a whole process that we're engaged in, where we need to update pretty much all the laws and regulations related to mobility and road safety from the national level to the municipalities regulations. And we also need to develop a national strategy on mobility and road safety. So that's a lot of the work that we're engaged in right now. This national strategy should be published in the next month. And so as part of the work that we've been doing is actually conducting a lot of regional forums and consultation processes to understand what are the characteristics of the different regions in Mexico and what needs to be included in this national strategy. So I think that has given spaces to have a bit more participatory. So they're open forums, pretty much anyone can connect and participate. And it varies a lot. But for example, the one we did in, I think it was Merida, it was very interesting because the youth there showed up and they started actively participating in these roundtables where a lot of the discussions were taking place on what we would like to include in this national strategy. But it's very much part of this process we're engaged in right now. Kind of what we need to develop now is how do we make those structures and that participation and that engagement permanent? So it's not just that the national strategy is published and that's it, but how do we keep that engagement going? And I think it varies a lot also on the local context. I know there's youth organizations that are very active in different cities, but I think we need to strengthen kind of like a more national presence.
Awesome. Thank you, Anna, for this answer.
Yeah.
Dilshod, there's a question for you also from the chat. So there's a person asking that there are new policies being formulated for future roads to accommodate cyclists or actively modifying existing roads for the same, like it's a question. And how easy or hard has this been for you?
Oh, thank you for the question. Yeah, actually, there's a policy which was developed by the World Bank, but unfortunately, it wasn't approved yet. And so the Ministry of Transport of Republic of Tajikistan still using the old policy and road safety strategy since the Soviet Union times, unfortunately. And then now they are would like to turn on the worldwide experience and European strategy and involve the alternative modes of transport more and more. So as you know, the prioritizing the pedestrians, cyclists, and public transport, and just to make them complete streets. And yeah, it's really difficult, I mean, in Tajikistan. So for your information, we do not have any bicycle lines here in Tajikistan. So, and one of the decisions that why we conducted the road safety training for cyclists was the topic how you have to move inside of the Dushanbe without bicycle lines, because it's really dangerous. You are not protected from the cars and drivers. So it's really difficult, and we hope that in the nearest future we'll have at least the first bicycle line.
Okay, Dilshod, thank you. That was very insightful, actually. Stephen, there's one last for you. Okay, so let me just search for the question for Stephen. Okay, so what advice would you give to other young people who want to get involved in promoting road safety and sustainable development in their communities?
Thank you very much, Alain, for the question. In few words, I would say you need to be aware, you need to have the knowledge about road safety and sustainable development goals. And to have this knowledge, you simply download and read our brief that we are going to launch at the end of this webinar. You understand the intersection between road safety, youth, and the sustainable development goals. And from there, you'll be able to know how to participate meaningfully. Thank you very much.
Okay, Stephen, wisely said. Great. Okay, so before moving on to our next session, I would like each presenter to wrap up everything that he said in 1 or 2 minutes. Please, starting with Anna, please tell us an advice that you could possibly give for the future to any young person who is willing to proceed in the road safety challenges that we face every day. So starting with Anna, like around 2 minutes.
Yeah. Wow. I think, sorry, you cut me off guard. No, how do we keep engaged? I think it's always good to have these conversations and having a group of people and making sure that we start working these coalitions and that we don't stay within our same group, because we tend, at least in when we deal with mobility, we tend to speak a lot with like-minded people, right? So we need to go out of that comfort zone and start engaging with people from different sectors, from different places, and kind of start having these conversations with them on why road safety is important and on why it is important to adopt this safe system approach, right? Because oftentimes, we tend to speak, I think, sometimes in silos, and the communication really needs to flow, and we need to engage and have this discourse. And it's really important to create these coalitions and this engagement with the different sectors, especially not just
like what we're doing right now.
Exactly. And as we scale it up, for example, I deal also a lot with motorcycle safety, and that being able to engage with civil society, with associations, but also with the private sector and with legislators is really, really important. That's how you start making change, finding those common grounds and start building from the topics that have the most support, and then building up from there.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Disholt, any advice that you could possibly give or any remark regarding your presentation?
Yeah, any advice? Oh, good. I can say about the local actions school. For the last year, I have learned a lot of things. So I encourage you to apply for the next year. And there are many talented professionals, youth guys who would like to make the change in their local livelihoods. So be brave, and you will be successful. So,
okay, awesome. Yeah, continue, please.
Yeah, and so I learned a lot of things from the Global Youth Coalition with the mentorship. I was also afraid about how I'm gonna hold these activities, how I'm gonna host these activities, but hopefully I did it. And so, yeah.
So if you did it, like anyone can do it as well. So like just
yeah. If you believe in what you do, you will succeed. And if you do not, unfortunately.
So teach them young, and if you believe in what you do, you will succeed. Those are the two mottos of today. Okay, great. Thank you guys so much for these lovely insights that you gave regarding your presentations. I'm going to share the screen again. Okay. And I would like to officially announce the launch of the SDG 11 brief, which we hope will inspire the youth and decision makers in reaching the sustainable cities and communities. Yeah, small happy dance here. Okay, awesome. Moving on, I would like to thank the participation of Anna, Disholt, and Stephen. And for all the joiners, I invite you to claim ourspace.org. If you are not a member yet, you can always register and become a member. And please let us know what you think about the SDG 11 that is already published right now on this website. And you can always get back to us if you have any questions, and we can always support you happily. Now, before we wrap up our session, I would like to hand over to Sana to present some key action points for you guys. So over to you, Sana.
Thank you so much, Alain, and thank you for the speakers for the amazing presentations. As we wrap up the session today on SDG 11 and road safety, it's clearly that there is so much work to be done to ensure that safe and sustainable cities and communities are accessible for all. You know that road traffic crashes continue to be a major public health concern and also a main obstacle in the development challenges. particularly in low and middle income countries. But we have also seen some inspiring examples of progress and success in reducing road traffic fatalities and injuries, particularly through the implementation of evidence-based interventions and by engaging multi-sectoral institutions and through collaborations, as well as how young people can play a critical role in transforming their cities into being more sustainable. And we have seen the case that Dilshad presented and how he encouraged the city of Dushanbe to have more active modes of mobility and to encourage his peers as well to shift into more depending systems on walking and cycling. I would like to thank our advocacy partner, FIA Foundation, for funding this project and their technical support that led to releasing the policy brief today. It's important that we continue to prioritize road safety as a critical component of sustainable development, and that we continue to work together across all sectors to implement effective solutions and to lead to having effective policy change as well. By doing so, we can create safer, more equitable, and more sustainable communities for all. My first action point for you is that I would like to strongly encourage all the participants today to download the policy brief on SDG 11 and road safety and to apply the recommendations outlined in their local communities. By downloading and applying these recommendations, you can play a critical role in creating a safer and a more sustainable community in your country. And remember that road safety is a shared responsibility, and we all have a role to play to ensure that our communities are safe and accessible for everyone. We have also released multiple policy briefs that also link road safety with other sustainable development goals. I also invite you to check them out and see the outlined recommendations. The second thing is that if you are registered and planning to take part in the ECOSOC to contribute to the global dialogue on sustainable development, I would like to invite you to speak up about road safety and how crucial it is to sustainable development. You can use the recommendations from the policy briefs to lead your intervention. At the coalition, we are planning to participate in the SDG Summit. So in the next few weeks, we are going to plan what we're going to do exactly, and we would like to keep you updated about how we are going to showcase meaningful youth participation in road safety through the lens of the sustainable development. The last thing is that this is something that we always encourage you to do, to advocate with your local government. And I believe that the policy brief is the first step that you can use in order to see where you can start the work, and you can have a better understanding about how youth can contribute to policy change at local level. One more action point is that I would like to invite you to go to yoursacademy.org. Our third module that was released this month basically speaks about road safety in the Sustainable Development Agenda. So you will learn more about SDG 11 as well as the other 16 Sustainable Development Goals. So please go to Yours Academy and grow your knowledge skills and start taking action. Basically, this is it. Thank you, Alain.
Thank you, Sana, for this for these lovely action points that you just give. So I guess we can wrap up the session right now. I believe we have the group picture that we have to take.